those things, I still like to understand where those things potentially end.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We start mid-conversation today.
Yes. We were just talking about extensions and where extensions of FP live, because that's our topic for today. After last week, we talked about malleable software. And
Malleable.
yeah, exactly that one. And how tools need to adapt to that new paradigm, or not only dev tools, but also all sort of different tools. And today we want to look how that looks like in practice. And basically we use the task manager that we develop at Fiberplane, the FP task manager, to show what you can do if you use a task manager and you think there is certain functionality that is missing. You caught us in a conversation where Brad told me you just tell Claude to write an extension for you. I told Brad I still like to know where this extension will potentially live, so I can see how to debug it.
Claude can show you.
Well, Claude can show me, yeah. But our docs could also still make that hint, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, the docs should have it, because also Claude needs docs. All right. So, loose plan for today, discussing, what did we talk about last week? Malleable software. And then the general idea of extensions, right? Okay. We didn't show any extensions or anything?
No, we didn't. Okay. No, we briefly showed our docs. I think we showed the tweet from the treadmill, the wish to extend the treadmill UI.
Yes. Okay. I'm trying to think of the best way to. I mean, let's show our docs. I'm going to share my screen. Share entire screen, and we'll do fp.dev/docs. And we have here extensions. And okay, so extensions, in our case, it's kind of like code that fires, whenever you use the FP CLI to create a task, move it out of a different status, delete a task, comment on a task, anything like that. So this
it hooks in into our events, right? It hooks in into the CLI events that we have. Yeah. So quick question: would you compare it to hooks in Claude Code? If I write a hook for Claude Code, that's kind of a.
I think it's not only hooks. So we have lifecycle hooks, and so that is a bunch of different events. Where do we list them, though, is the question. It probably under API reference. And this, I think right now, where's our events? Man, we gotta improve the docs. There we go.
There are the lifecycle events.
Oh, right under lifecycle events. Okay, so you can, before things happen, you can kind of validate. So before a comment is, or one of my favorite examples was before an issue is created, you can check whether, okay, you can check a couple of things. You can check if the issue has a description body, and you could reject it if not, and then that would reject it, and then Claude would see some sort of helpful error message of hey, don't just create a task with a title, also fill in some details. And then you could go so far. This was Mies, our CEO, one of his extensions was to always include acceptance criteria in the task, which means that you kind of have this guarantee that any task you're laying out for future work has a clear set of items that need to be checked off in order to consider it complete. And that is actually quite helpful. So we also have we call these side effects. They're things that happen after certain events, like after a comment is created. I'm going to show an example with that today. And you can do stuff like after something is marked as done, you could do some follow-up action on that. Including, you could print a reminder to the console, to Claude or your coding agent of choice, to say associate a revision with this task, so that you always you can put that in your agents MD or Claude MD, but a lot of times Claude will forget, and so it's a nice just-in-time reminder about the workflow that you're trying to enforce with your agent, which is pretty cool. But aside from that, I mean, like extensions can do a lot, and it's probably not super helpful to just go through the docs like this. One other thing I'll call out, because we're going to see it shortly, is you can, so it's not just like responding to events, you can also register properties that will show up in the desktop app, and then probably tomorrow or Saturday we'll release some additional tweaks that allow you to directly set custom properties from the CLI and then also renders them in the CLI output. But yeah, that's quite powerful. And then on top of that, you can do stuff if you have the desktop app, like fire notifications.
And I think that allows you basically, if you use already certain tools, you can integrate quite easily now FP with certain tools that you might have already in your previous developer workflow, right?
Yeah. Theoretically, you could sync issues to a separate, like, separate thing you're using just by writing an extension. I'm trying to think what else. There's, all of these. So this is worth noting. So if you set up a new project, all right. So this is a project I called Fancy Plan. Actually, you know what? We're just gonna get a new terminal window. So when I set up FP in here, now you'll see when I list the contents of the .fp directory, which the CLI creates, I have something called extensions. And then there's this extensions.md, which if I render the markdown, well, you basically get all the documentation that you would need to write extensions. And just in case that's not present, I think FP extensions. Yeah, you can print all of that just by calling FP extensions docs from the CLI. So that too is, let me see here. This might be an old version that doesn't have this. That should also be in, is it Glow? Yeah. Yes, inside of the FP Claude that we put into the repo when you run FP setup Claude. So that document
will be,
Yes.
Sorry, soon there will be FP setup agents as well. So
I'm reviewing that PR right after.
Sorry, just had to make this.
Yeah, that's Nella's. Nella's working on that.
With Claude together, but
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't like demos like this where it's just like, hey, check out the docs and the code. I would like to show the thing that I worked on, but I did need to kind of prime it of, hey, this is a task manager and you can hack it quite a bit with custom TypeScript code that runs with the CLI or with the desktop app. So yeah, any questions for me before we move along to a demo?
Questions from you or from me?
Anything on your mind?
Well, I mean, I think it's good, right? We have a agents MD or we have a Claude MD that tells Claude or any other coding agent how to write extensions. If I'm curious, Brad, that was our conversation. Where will those extensions live in the end? Like, where do you put this code and how is it invoked? Can you give me like a little bit more? Like, I mean, I like when things magically happen. They do all the time with Claude, but I still like to, understand architecture and kind of where do they live, basically.
Yes. Okay. So the first place is in your project in that .fp dir that I just showed under a folder called extensions, and basically anything in that folder will get kind of loaded into the extension host when you run the CLI or when you run the desktop app. So that's the first thing. The second thing is in your global .fiberplane directory, there's also an extensions directory, and then this is something that would run for all projects. And so what we're going to do either tomorrow or Saturday, currently working on it, is give everyone a default extension that registers a label property. And actually, I should have a dev build. Yeah, I have a dev build right here. So what that would do, label. boom, registers a property right here called labels. And then you can just go in and tweak what kind of labels you would want to see in your directory. And labels can be helpful in turn for extensions for performing certain actions on certain tickets with certain labels.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
this,
yeah, I'm looking forward. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I have already use case for labels. So
yeah, so labels already, like this on my machine exists in /fiberplane / extensions, and you'll see this labels.ts. And if I open that, this is what the extension looks like. It's quite simple. And actually, this is a good example of like, okay, you add an option, and then we give you like icons and colors that you can specify so that when it shows up in the UI, it looks a certain way.
cool. But yeah, I mean, back to what you said, right? It's a little bit like everything. You can configure the extensions globally for all of your projects, but you can also configure if you build your custom extension to use that extension only in a project, right? On the project level.
Yes. Yeah. And the only way to share them right now is to check them into Git. Got to think of, yeah, there's probably, yeah, you could just purposely Git ignore certain extensions as well. I'd have to think on that. If you only wanted personal ones in a project that didn't get shared with the team. But yeah, that's how they get.
Right. I have a use case for that already. So it's like if I think of my quiz that I always create for myself to understand the code base better, that would be a personal extension that I don't want to check in with the team.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. See? So, all right, I'm excited to show this one thing. I haven't really practiced how to talk about it, but it's called Fancy Plan.
Okay.
And
I know you bought a URL for it. I'm excited for that.
So I let Claude go overnight and woke up to a much nicer website than I expected. And okay, the premise here is that sometimes for a larger chunk of work, especially a task with many subtasks, I like to visualize it all together. And I don't just want a bunch of markdown concatenated together. I actually want like diagrams and things like that. So, and then on top of that, I've been doing this on my own and putting it on my personal site and sharing it with members of the team. So actually, for example, like this is a rough FP extensions guide that I made just to like recap what's possible with extensions. But then beyond that,
I have to ask, is that inspired by the skill that gives you architectural diagrams based on your code base?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that. And it also looks pretty much like a landing page rather than, than shipping a feature.
Also, I wanted to get feedback on, like, we're going to add image attachments to issues, and I want to get some feedback on how to, or basically on the plan for that. So this is another one that I created and then uploaded and shared with the team. And I was like, you know what, this is quite helpful. And so
also, before you go into the deeps, I have a more question on a meta level. Do you think it helps you with cognitive load in terms where everyone gets like out a lot nowadays, that like kind of a site that has a nice outline, nice diagrams, also helps you to grasp things quicker?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I don't have an example off the top of my head, but just like quickly scanning through how certain things are related to each other helps me spot an issue or just like understand, the proposal a bit more quickly. At any rate,
I think that gets more important the more we ship, right? The faster and the more we ship, we still want to understand certain things. So I think it's a great feature.
Yeah. So I guess shout out is due. So do I have to Nico here, who created something called Visual Explainer. So you can find that on GitHub. You can install it as a Claude plugin or extension for Pi, and it creates very beautiful, visual explanations of either code or plans or things like that. And so I took some inspiration from that skill, and ultimately I wrote an extension for FP that, and I want to toy with this a bit, but basically the way that it triggers right now is if you comment on an issue and you say fancy plan, what it will do, let me get fancy. What it will do is kick off a Claude process with the Claude Agents SDK. And first it'll tell you, hey, I'm generating fancy plan. So I commented fancy plan, and then a comment comes back saying, hey, generating fancy plan. This will take a few minutes. And then after a couple of minutes, the fancy plan is generated. And so we can check this out. So this was for the like improving the commenting system, which we'll see in a second on the plan. But if I open it, I get this.
Nice.
Yeah. And the commenting system refers to, all right, something about these plans is like I would post them in Slack, and then people would just like comment on where I posted in Slack. What I wanted was some way that you could highlight a portion of the plan and then comment on it. And so actually, does scroll not work when I have this? Oh, that's a bummer. I should fix that. So yeah, as you comment on the plan, this is good. Oh, okay, there's some UI bugs. This was Claude generated. Then you can copy them.
You should file an issue for it.
I will. You can copy that and then beam it back down to Claude. And yeah. So what does the extension look like? Because if I go back to, what was this comment? You can see there's a custom property right now called Fancy Plan that has the URL. In theory, if we wanted to update the plan over time, I could like reference this property and then instead of always creating new plans, like iterate on a single plan so it has multiple versions. And yeah, kind of forgot what else I wanted to show. Oh yeah, the code itself. So the way that I created this was effectively just going into Claude and telling it, hey, can you write an extension for FP that does blank? And then we iterated on like the mechanics of that, of how the extension should work, but then it just had access to the .fp/extensions/extensions.md file, and it was able to figure out pretty much everything on its own, which was pretty nice. And so, yeah, I don't know if any questions.
Yeah, I have a few follow-up questions. It's intriguing. First, I think that's useful, even though of like you show that you use those for your own issues, like if you let your Claude run on your issues. But I also think if you have a full team that does this and you sometimes review stuff also from the team, I think that's equally useful, right? Would you say so too? Yeah.
Yeah. Really quick.
Would you? And I was also wondering about your decision to create those. Like you comment on an issue and say fancy plan. Would there be a benefit to always create one? So no matter like after each task is marked as done, you want to create a fancy plan, or do you think that would be an overload as well? There would be too many fancy plans out there.
You don't always need a fancy plan. That was my logic. So yeah, I was also, because we don't have the labels yet, and I'm working on that simultaneously. I do think having something where it's like if you attached that label or like a share label or something like that, then it kicks off some sort of extension that uploads the plan with a nice, presentation layer, and then your colleagues can comment on it. I think that would be nice. But
so you want a label called fancy plan?
You what?
No, so that means basically you have a label then that's called fancy plan, and then whenever you have that label to the task, it means you will create it.
Yeah, Yeah, I think that's
Um,
about.
or maybe for any epic task, I don't know, for things that are bigger. Because
Um,
sometimes the task can be also very narrow and small. I guess then a fancy plan might be overkill.
it would. Yeah, I was gonna try making a fancy plan for this with a very small task because it would be quicker, but then I just prepped a couple of different plans. So, yeah, I think the main reason I want to show this is because, okay, malleable. When we think of malleable software and personalized software, I whipped this up with a couple of prompts, mostly overnight, and a little bit of iteration, like including both from the extension to the service itself. And this is like highly specific to how, like, a problem I had in the last week where I was like, okay, I have a plan with a lot of sub issues, and I want to wrap all those up into something that my colleagues can read more easily, comment on, and then I can ingest those comments. And like, I don't know, I barely had to invest like any time or mental energy to come up with a solution. And part of that is, has to do with like the fact that Claude can write so much code, and that this kind of backbone for all of our work, which is FP, has an extensions module. So yeah.
Yeah, I also like thinking about it, what you said. It also like the extension makes so much sense now. Like teams have different workflows. And then also the current task managers that existed pre-agentic coding development might not have the flexibility needed. So maybe that's something you want nowadays more than ever. At
Yeah.
least I would say.
Yeah. I think,
Hmm.
yeah, it's to me, it's just like the world is your oyster a little bit of, and I'm still like wrapping my head around everything that we could possibly do. Especially like with notifications. Like I have so many different things going on right now. I actually am finding myself in a spot where I do want a ping when a certain task is done, or when a set of tasks is done. And so I'm kind of interested in how, yeah, I don't know, how I could have different extensions for different parts of our code base that ping me with the right granularity of information for me to check in. Yeah.
What would be what would be the sound of your ping?
The sound.
The sound.
We should make that. We should definitely make that customizable.
Yes.
I Yeah. I don't know if it's on Mac. I really like the Sherwood Forest, which sounds like a little bit like Robin Hood, uh, or just like it's like a medieval horn that announces that a notification is in. Yeah, like I would choose that. Actually, it'd get super annoying, so I'd change it quickly. But let's go with that.
Oh my God, I'm wondering the next time I come to the office and all of you have installed it or used this and everyone has a different individual sound.
Constantly like.
That would be the agent concert. Like, I mean, I would listen to it, honestly. I think that would be quite funny to try out as well. But cool. I'm also getting my hands on an extension, I think, and I will try out what that looks like for me.
What's it
And I
going to be?
think we are back. Hmm?
What's your extension?
I think I want to hook it up with a learning skill that I created because I think there is a part where it generates a quiz and it's not quite reliable at the moment. That's how I would call it. But yeah. So yeah, basically, I think I would create an extension after each task is done or after a phase is done, and then the quiz is generated from the extension rather my skill. I need to think a little bit about it, but also with the labels for
Yeah.
my skill, this is really handy, So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. So I'm curious to see how I can customize it more for my use case.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially for yours, the whole idea of like a label. Yeah, I mean, you're basically just using labels inside of a title for. So yeah, Nella's skill is all about like what does Nella do versus Claude, um, and yeah,
I'm
aside from
still in a
having
very luxury. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
also assignee. We should be able to assign Claude. I think that's a good. I'm gonna make a note of that after this stream.
About what?
Well, just like really what we're talking about too is who is assigned to the ticket. And I think separating out like your agent from you in FP would be kind of nice.
And I think I'm still in a luxury position that my manager gives me time to work on issues myself. I feel others might not have the luxury, but I still enjoy it. So I can still take some time to do a ticket myself. I know Claude is faster. I mean, it's not a secret.
Yeah. All right. What have we learned?
I've learned that we should be able with more software in general to have those types of extension, but with the task manager, I learned it can be very handy for the explanation phase, the fancy plan, the visualization, based on what I liked already, the skill that you showed earlier, the that is installed in Pi. I forgot the name, but you gave the shout out. But yeah, so I learned that this is quite handy when you ship more code, when you ship with a team, so you have the possibility to get an outline quickly. I learned where the extensions live potentially, so I have a better understanding of that. I know that I can prompt Claude also to help me build one, which is handy.
Yeah, I think that's the big one. Yeah.
That's probably the big one, but then I still can look into what it did and what it wrote, which I also kind of like. So that's my main takeaway. Do you have a takeaway?
I want to fix fancy plan. And also, I guess, yeah, all my takeaways are like, oh, how do we make this better? And I think just when I saw the fancy plan custom property, I was like, oh, it's a URL. Like, oh, you should be able to click that from the properties in the issue. I don't know. I'm getting ideas as I like show this thing off. Yeah.
Cool. Then next week, well, we will decide probably next week what we talk about next week, but I'm looking forward to it because you might have more to show.
I hope so. Yeah. I think we'll show images definitely next week, and then maybe we can do something based off of like kind of a workflow of like if you upload a comment with an image, then you kick off some work, something like that. I don't know.
Oh, and I also remember that we might want to bring a guest on the stream that uses FP with OpenClaw.
Oh, yes.
Quite cool.
Yeah.
Our guest doesn't know yet, but he will be aware soon. So
I'll just walk into his office as we stream.
Like, hi. No, we will. I think that will be quite interesting. So to see what his workflow or his OpenClaw workflow is.
Yeah. All right. Okay, stay tuned.
Can I hit the button to end the stream?
Yeah, let's hit the button to end the stream. Goodbye.